Auto sequence start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello there. Welcome, all my fellow eye for an eye aficionados, to another installment of Canned Conversation. My name is Andrew, and with me, as always, is my good friend Steven.
That is me. Hello.
Hello. Tell me, my friend, when it comes to spring planting, are you team annual or team perennial?
I get confused by this, but I think it's team perennial. Whatever comes back every year that I don't have to replant it, I'm that. That's perennial?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So I'm that team.
Yeah. The annual is
dumb.
It just it's one and done, right?
Yeah. There's no reason for that.
Pop and flop.
Yeah.
One and done. Here and gone.
In fact, anything that my wife buys, I insist I want it to be a perennial, because I'm like, plant it here, and I want it to come back next year, and I don't ever want to have to think about it again. So yeah,
there you go.
100%.
I just came up with that on the 5 pop and flop.
I like pop and flop. That's good. Because that's our planting method at home. We're plop and
exactly.
flop.
You can use that.
I will.
All of our listeners, if you wish, take that and run with it. I'm not going to copyright it or anything.
It's copywritten.
Just give us a shout out when you use it.
Yeah, hit us on Patreon, and we can afford to. We'll give you credit.
We're not on there yet, but
we should be.
Yeah, we should be. Well, as the first word in our show title suggests, one of us brings a new, unique, or rare canned beverage to try. And while we douse our palates with its contents, we move to the second word in the show title and conversate about the many life funnies that we read about
Funnies?
or see in our life. Later in the show, we'll review and rate the canned beverage and let you know if you should try it while cosplaying at your next comic convention.
I don't cosplay.
You don't do that?
Nope.
You don't dress up like your favorite character?
LARP? Is that what that is? LARPing?
I think that's a
Live
different
action
part.
role-playing?
Yeah, that's not quite the same. I think you're your own character maybe in the LARP world. Like you create you're like a wizard or something.
Okay.
But cosplay, I think, is you pick a character from
And you dress up like actual
Yes.
sci-fi character or whatever.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Like from like Marvel or something. Like
Yeah.
I'm Iron Man, so I'm going to dress up like that.
Okay.
All right.
I see the difference now. Nice work.
Well, it's time to bring on the can, so let's do this.
A day for my old man. My father worked in profanity the way other artists might work in oils or clay.
You like this music?
I do.
What flavor would you say the music this is?
Rock? What?
It's got some country in it. This is the first time I've put a country flavor in here.
We need to talk about your country then. It's a whole lot of lead guitar on that.
That's the kind of country I would listen to.
Okay.
The reason I put that in there is I do have to give a shout out to my wife here. Do you know who? I think it's Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
Tim McGraw?
I do know Tim McGraw.
Tim McGraw, right?
And his wife.
He's
a lovely wife.
He's a
both.
country singer.
Yep.
Yeah. So apparently he had a birthday here a little while ago, and my wife owns a bakery, and they commissioned her to make Tim's birthday
Kind of a big deal.
cake.
He was in town for a concert.
Yeah.
And his wife commissioned a cake for his birthday from your wife.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It was really great, and they got pictures, and apparently they all enjoyed it. So, wonderful job there.
Shout out to your wife and her cake shop.
Lolly Cakes. I'm sort of sponsored by them, and that my wife owns it.
But that's a big deal, right? Like I can't imagine Tim McGraw using anything I've ever produced. So that's awesome. That's really awesome.
It was a lot of fun. So
I think she was jacked up about it too, right?
Oh man, yeah, it was so great. Like
Faith Hill. Like I love Faith Hill. I love Tim McGraw. I know you hate country music. It's not nothing against either one of them.
It's just
it's not your
really
it's not
my
your
cup of tea.
genre.
Yeah.
But like I'm a huge country music fan. So raised in small town Missouri, so you have to like country music. So, but it's a big deal. It is a huge deal. So kudos to your wife because that's awesome.
Yep, she is kicking butt and taking names.
Yeah, she is.
So, and hopefully any other acts that come through now, if they have any weird things, baked goods in their riders.
Every country act that has a birthday on the day that they come through St. Louis
Yes.
as a concert venue, they should come here they should come to your wife's
Or if they just,
venue.
they're like, hey, as part of our setup,
Yeah,
we want brownies or...
We want cupcakes.
Yeah.
We want ooey gooey butter cake. We want chocolate dipped gooey buttered bites, which are phenomenal. Like she makes all kinds of crazy great stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
All right. So speaking of hopefully crazy great stuff, the can for today,
Yep.
I brought... It is. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Destihl, because the last
Ooh,
part
it's
is like
fancy.
steel,
Like the chainsaw?
yeah, the
Yep.
many things that steel makes. They make trimmers and all kinds of
Chainsaws.
they're known for their chainsaws
Chainsaws.
for real. So the Destihl Brewery, a Hawaii 5 Ale.
Which is where's the Destihl Brewery at though?
It's local.
It's
Right?
Illinois.
Yeah, it's in Illinois.
it's Hawaii 5 Ale.
Brewed in Illinois.
Product of Illinois.
Yeah.
Or Illinois as it's spelled. But yeah, blonde ale with pineapple, coconut, mango, peach, and guava.
The can it was great to me. It's not crazy, and it's how it's sometimes it's got cartoon characters on there or things that draw us to the can. It's a really cool can, even though it's sort of it's simplified.
Yeah.
But it reached out and grabbed me in terms of looking at it here, and when I started reading what's in it, blonde ale with the pineapple and the coconut and the mango and the peach and the guava, I'm like, how much stuff can they pack into a beer?
Yeah, it's good for you
Right.
at this point.
But,
it's a serving of fruit.
Plus, we're starting to get in. It was clocked at like 90 plus degrees today, so it's not officially summer, but we're
It
getting there.
feels like it, man.
Yeah, we're this hopefully is going to give us a nice refreshing boost here.
So if you're looking for this, it's a normal size can. It's kind of orange and white, and it's 6.4% by volume alcohol. So normally ale.
yeah, but Hawaiian flavors brewed in Illinois.
Because nobody knows Hawaii like Illinois is what I've always said that. So that's good.
All right, so I want to talk about revenge today.
Good.
Have you ever tried to exact revenge from someone?
Oh, I'm certain. I'm a human being. Like when my feelings get hurt, someone else's should be hurt too. That's your normal, natural reaction.
Sure.
Yes.
Do you recall any specific times, or just like, okay, I know I've been wronged in the past, and when I was wronged, I wanted to retribute.
Retribute?
Well, I know retribution's a great word, so I didn't know if I could
You
change
should
that over
shorten it
into a
and,
verb.
take all the suffixes off and just call it a word. I can't think of a specific time, but I am certain there have been times when either when I was a kid, I was the youngest child. So when you're a youngest child, you always get picked on. And my sister's been on here, like lovely woman.
Yes.
I'm not saying that she wasn't, but I am certain that between her and all of our neighborhood kids were about her age, not my age. They were all in the same grade, and I was the one who was. So I got picked on, I think, a lot. They were nice. I love the kids I grew up with, George and Scott and Deb, and those guys were all very nice to me, I'm sure. But at some point, they also were like, "That's the younger brother. He's the doofus.
He's dispensable.
Right. Yeah, we can use him for parts later if we need to." I can't remember a time, but I know that I've had tons of snow down my snowsuit. I've been picked on that way, and so I'm certain I've gotten back. Usually it's probably tattletaling. It's probably going, "Mom, do you know what Deb's
Right.
done?"
All right. Well, I just want to preface what I'm going to talk about here to say that we
You seem
love.
serious.
It's a little bit more serious in terms that it is in the political arena, but
Ooh, fun.
we love to laugh at the absurdities of life,
Yeah.
and the world around us, and sometimes that includes things like the area of politics.
Yep.
You know me, I have a healthy disdain for at most things politics, but I regard it as a necessary evil. But when things happen in politics that are this, I would say, brightly shown in terms of a revenge or a retribution,
Right.
I just got to laugh at it. I got to call it out, and I got to go, look at what you did.
Yeah.
and how this turned around on you. This should be a lesson for all those involved.
I'm 100% behind getting passionate about how stupid politics is. So you tell me the topic and I'm going to get passionate.
And so
about
left, right, or center, I hope that you enjoy this story, or if you haven't already. And I know this is coming out a little bit later than the story was probably at its height, but it wasn't
It's still
huge.
good to laugh at it then.
So yeah, let's talk
that.
about some of the idiocy that is going on here. So where did this start? So where did this revenge start? Oh, by the way, I should preface this also with you were in the Florida area recently. Just came back. We talked about that on the last episode. This does have to do with Florida and their governor. And so their governor was like, who should I pick a fight with?
And Florida's a mess, regardless of like there's whole Reddit threads and Facebook pages are just based on how crazy Florida is in general. And then the whole COVID thing has been crazy in Florida because they're like, we have no rules. COVID doesn't exist. And they're like, oh crap, we all got COVID. So Florida's been a mess for a couple years now.
Right. But there's one entity in Florida that I don't think that I would get in a fight with, and that's Mickey Mouse.
Agree, because the whole Florida industry is based on tourism.
Exactly.
And Mickey Mouse seems to be running that
It's
show.
a huge part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're magical.
Of course they are. I hate that place, but they are magical.
So where did this all begin? So apparently the governor there, Ron DeSantis, if you're familiar.
Mr. DeSantos.
DeSantis. So he had something go a little bit awry on him, and he thought he was going to take revenge. Where did this start? Have you heard of the law titled the Parental Rights and Education Bill?
Don't say gay.
Hey, there you go.
Yep.
So look at you. You're all up in this.
Semi up to date with what's going on here, but yeah. So the Don't Say Gay bill,
AKA Don't Say Gay.
Yep.
Prohibits schools from teaching children about sexual orientation or gender identity, in quotes, in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate. The legislation also allows parents to bring lawsuits against school districts and teachers that are in potential violation.
Yep.
So this is a terrible law. Again, left, right, or center, the way that this law was constructed and written very ambiguously, all right? And honestly, so the way I thought of it is you could almost take out sexual orientation and put almost in any word, right? And like candy, right?
Yep.
And say, you can't teach about candy, and you're legislating that that's what they're going to try to impose upon their teachers and their school districts. Yeah. So, because that's taking out the emotionally charged topic of LGBT community, right? True. So, which is that's a very big part of this, right? Yep. So, like, when I say take it out, I mean if we looked at it in just terms of how the law was written and and how it's going to be applied, it's legislating this behavior on this ambiguous level that is pushing this onto teachers and school districts and administrations to have to worry about. Where it just seems to me like we shouldn't be putting this on the tops of teachers, right? I hope I'm saying that correctly. We shouldn't be applying this to teachers enough, where we should let the teachers. I know you're going to jump in because
you're good.
Yeah, and but basically to say we have to let teachers teach and answer questions from children. Let the administration and their conduct policies of the school districts take care or handle any instances of teachers that are found to be like supposedly discussing inappropriate subject matter with children, right? Because on the face of it, it's sold as this, kids under a certain age, we shouldn't be teaching sexual orientation. Okay, I get that. But wouldn't we already know that? Isn't there a common sense factor? Isn't there already things in place so that teachers just, in the school district, if they're doing that, they're taken care of? It's a conduct issue.
Right. And so we've had my sister on.
Yeah.
She was a teacher. I know her.
Now principal.
And now a principal. She's had lots of teachers that work for her now. My mother-in-law was a teacher. My aunt on my in-law side was a teacher. Like there's a long lineage of teachers around me. none of them ever have had the intent to harm kids or to push an agenda. I feel like this law says, like, there's a bunch of teachers that are out there going, we should teach kids about, sexual activity at 3 years old. I've never heard a teacher who goes, I want to hurt.
Right. It assumes the worst behavior.
It does. It's just, the whole thing is just ridiculous that the teachers are trying to implement
or push their agenda,
push content onto kids that they're not ready for,
and that there's nothing in place that holds them accountable already.
Right.
Like
you already have a leadership team.
Yeah.
Right?
Like they felt that they needed a law to come in and give a tool to sue. Because here's what I say: if I put that candy thing in there,
Yep.
and if I say, if a kid came up to you under this law, but think of it in terms of candy, and the kid went, why are some candies chewy and some are hard? And the teacher goes, I can't answer that, or your mommy might sue me.
Right. And so that's the problem, right? So for one, you assume teachers have bad intent. And for two, you put litigation as the best option for any crazy parent to go. And
Right.
crazy, like if you talk to education people, they're like, oh my God, I deal with parents all the time
Every day.
who are nuts.
Right.
And I'm not speaking, my sister's not telling me that everybody she deals
Right,
with is nuts.
right.
So I'm caviating that with just
But
in
there's
general.
always a percentage.
Right. The people that you hear, it's the squeaky wheel. The people you hear from
Right.
are probably crazy parents who've overprotected or whatever. But you put litigation in their hand, and all of a sudden your school district is now like flooded with lawsuits because of something silly like this, where you go, my teacher didn't have the intent to teach them going, you should only have sex between male and female, or like they're not teaching that in third grade anyway. Like, what are
Right.
you doing?
Or if they were, right? I mean, because say that there is an outlier, right? I don't want to say no
Sure.
teacher ever had an agenda.
There's already a principal that handles that.
Right.
You're already outside
Exactly.
state curriculum.
Right.
Right. Like that's not part of your third grade curriculum anyway.
You're just transferring the power of being able to have at your own school the authority to manage your school and manage your people, right?
Yep.
To do the best that they can. And you gave that stick to the parents and said, now I give you the job to figure out if my teacher is doing a good job, and you can essentially sue us if you think that they're on the who knows what, right? Yep. So again, and it's so ambiguously written, right? So as to, because they wanted to cover all, right? They couldn't single out any one, or it would probably be unconstitutional. But we know that perhaps it was written for a certain intent.
Yep.
It seems to me, right? And again, I don't think this is a, hey, you're far right or you're far left. Like, I think left, right, or center, you should be offended at this law, whatever your walk of life is. That's just my personal opinion.
We haven't even got to the Disney part.
Right, exactly. But I just wanted to rant just a smidge.
No, I'm with you because I'm just as passionate about it. I'm like, screw that.
Right.
But anyway, so.
But someone has the audacity, right, to go, hey, I don't think that this is necessarily a great law. Now,
Right.
So Disney, apparently, so I did a lot of reading on this, and Disney originally wasn't going to come out.
They didn't say anything
Right,
at first.
they weren't going to say anything.
And their employees got pissed.
Yeah, there was definitely pressure to go,
Yeah.
hey, we really believe that this might not be the right thing.
Right.
We think our leadership
This
should.
is not an inclusive law. You
Right.
should handle this.
We think you should at least take a stance.
Yep.
And so Disney said, all right, we're going to take a stance. And we're going to say, so the CEO, Bob Chapek.
Mr. Disney.
Yeah, apparently in two instances, one, I think it was at a shareholders meeting, he just said out loud, hey, we've had some pressures to come out and have a stance on this. We don't believe that this is a good law. And we're going to let,
Okay.
and we've put money into various campaigns, and we're going to readjust where we put our money, essentially, right?
Right.
And then he said, I'm going to call the governor and I'm going to tell him one-on-one just kind of why I don't think this is a great law.
So handling it like an adult.
You would think, yes.
I don't like what you're doing.
Yes.
I'm going to use my money for things that I agree with.
Right.
As a company, but I'm not going to get super. They didn't get super involved. It's not like they came out at the beginning of this and were like,
Right.
we're campaigning. This is after the fact, right? Like their employees kind of pressured them into it. They're like, well, yeah, we have an opinion. But I'm going to be a grown adult and call the governor and go, hey, I don't like it. And here's why I don't like it. And here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like grown adult.
Right.
Nice.
So apparently, so if you picture this as like a playground scenario, DeSantis is on one side of the playground. He does something. Disney comes over and goes, "Man, I don't really think what you're doing is great.
I don't like the rules of kickball."
Right. I think maybe you should change this. I'm just throwing this out there. And DeSantis said,
Screw off.
No, I'm going to take steps to hurt you. So I guess that would be throwing a punch.
He completely threw a punch.
Yeah.
100%.
A haymaker.
He roundhouse kick.
So what does Governor do? He responds with revenge.
Yeah.
That's where this whole thing comes in. He calls a special session of the Florida government.
Yep.
Now, there will be probably some people that know a lot about this that go, well, there was a few other things on the docket. Sure. I'm not saying that this was the only thing, but,
no, but this
what
is the
came
point
out of it in 3 days of this special legislature session was a 2-page bill that essentially strips Disney of its status as an independent school or a special district, not school. Sorry.
It's basically its own town. They have the ability to build their own roads, do their own fire, like all the stuff that a town would have, Disney has.
Exactly.
For a very specific purpose, because they own a big, like a town-sized chunk of land, and they manage it themselves.
40 square miles, known as Reedy Creek.
Excuse me.
If I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
So the Reedy Creek Improvement District, established in 1967, Disney petitioned for it and was granted this by the government.
Yep.
And they said, hey, listen, we're going to basically be our own county. And the reason we're going to do this is because we're going to do a lot of things on this 40 square miles. Now, granted, we want to be able to basically have autonomy over what we do. Yeah. But we're going to build because they had already had another property that was making money for California, I guess.
Yep.
And they said, we're going to do something similar, but we're going to do additional. Mm-hmm. So let's blow this thing up, right? I want to do this right in the middle of your state, and it's going to bring you a lot of
It's going to bring you tons of income, just tons.
Right. So it was a good for Florida, good for Disney, right? So Disney goes, hey, we don't even want you to pay for our roads, like you mentioned, the utilities, the ambulance service.
We'll build our own infrastructure.
We're going to do it all ourselves.
Yep.
And we're not going to charge your tax-paying people
or your counties any of that funds.
And I liken this to, like nowadays when sports teams want their own stadium, like they want a brand new stadium, right? And it's going to cost a gajillion dollars.
Right.
And they're like, we want the taxpayers to pay for it. Right. And what happens? There's a huge backlash. They're like, why are these billionaires that are going to make money off this thing want us to pay for it? Now, if it sounds like I'm slighted, like I'm like, oh, totally pro Disney, but it just on the surface, if you ask me, this sounds like sort of a good compromise, right?
I get tax revenue from you, and I don't have to pay any of your expenses. You're buying all your own roads. You're paying all your own maintenance. I'm sure it's not the great deal that it sounds like it is, but I'm sure it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So Disney, they basically created an entity within themselves to manage, and they have a government, a small, albeit small. There's like 5 people on the board, and they each own like a little sect of that land that's Disney, in order to do it. But the setup is they don't have to worry about any zoning laws, none of that.
They zone their own stuff.
They do their own thing. They've built Disney World, and which is now a huge tourist destination. So they acquired a lot of debt, essentially, like a county would for tax purposes. It's not necessarily Disney wasn't going, oh, we don't have enough money to help our infrastructure, but they're like, hey, we're going to, like a county, have bonds, right? We're going to issue these bonds. So they have $1 billion in bond debt.
Oh, God.
They also pay $105 million a year to operate all of the services that they do, which a county would normally do.
Right.
Okay. All right, so fast forward, right? So now they go, we're going to strip you.
Yeah, you're no longer your own entity. You're now part of Florida counties. Mm-hmm. You're no longer your own town. Now what?
So now it's not entirely clear on which county, but it seems like Orange County is likely going to get hit with all of the debt and the maintenance costs.
So now Orange County picked up $1 billion in debt.
$1 billion in bond debt that they have to figure out how to pay off if it can transfer, because there's kind of a legality or constitutional Floridian. I mean, there's already at the time of this, when I was looking at this that day, I think already a filed suit, right?
Oh, I'm sure, because they're like, this is not our problem.
Right. So, but
Santos, this is your problem.
if there were no lawsuits, or if there was no, how do we do this? Essentially, when you dissolve that district, all the bond debt and all that utility cost would go to the county. The county doesn't have enough money to cover it. How do they cover expenses? They tack it on to the personal property tax.
And so everybody's
of all the taxpayers.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, they've so immediately. I'm reading some of these articles from the newspapers and stuff, and they're like throwing up, the sky is falling. They're like, the situation is dire. The property taxes are likely to jump 20% immediately, just to sustain normal,
and then annually,
yes,
forever. Like you should expect your property taxes to go up 5% every year.
Yeah, because the 20% they said is not even enough money to cover all of what they expect.
That's a tourniquet for the bleeding.
Yes. And just in case you were wondering, because I think there was a bit of misinformation out there for a minute, probably, you know how it goes, right? Like, so political arena. So some people are like, hey, Disney doesn't pay taxes, right? Like, because I read like hey, is this true or false, right? And they put it on the meter of Politico meter, right? So just in case you're thinking Disney doesn't actually pay taxes to the state of Florida, that is incorrect. So I have the figure here. They paid, in 2021, they paid $780 million in state and local taxes.
So let's say they didn't, though. Let's just pretend. And it's expensive to go to Disney. Everybody knows it. It costs a ton of money. But the amount of hotels and rental cars and airfare that they bring to Florida is ridiculous.
That's stupid.
I mean, it's hundreds of millions of people come in. Like millions of people come in every year just for Disney, just for that experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are you thinking? Ron DeSantis, what's wrong with you?
It's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Agree.
He got butthurt because his law that I can't, I'm not in the man's mind, right? It's calling for me to be in his, psyche to go. But I mean, just on the surface, if you just look at it from the surface, this is a total, I'm going to get revenge. Here's how I'm going to do it. You spoke out against me.
Right. I'm going to put the hurt to you, and you're going to submit. And then they didn't. And they're like, well, you shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You cut off your nose to spite your face. You're exactly right.
I'm guessing some people came up to him and he's like, how do I hurt Disney? And they're like, hey, do you remember this thing where they're like their own
take that away
county, right? They autonomous over here. They don't have to ask us about anything zoning. They can build a Tower of Terror and we can't tell them how to do it. Which, by the way, is a fantastic ride.
You should do that.
Yeah, I know we're not sponsored by Disney,
but we should be.
Definitely. But they can just build a park, and they don't have to ask you, Governor, what do you think about that? And he's like, take it away. Special session. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And 3 days, nobody had the financial wherewithal to go, and how's this going to affect your...
How's this work? Did anybody think this through? No, this is just me being mean, right? Like if you're Ron DeSantis, you're like, screw him. Let's see if we can put the hurt to him.
Yeah.
And to me, that either says one of two things. One is you are either trying to make a stance to run for a greater political office. So let's call it a spade. You want to run for president. You want to run for something. Or two, you are trying to get in good graces with a far right, aggressive.
I'm assuming he's Republican.
There's no way he's not. You're in Florida, dude.
I don't know. I mean,
that's what Florida is.
Okay. All the retirees, the old people that are trying to. Okay.
You were trying to deal with a extremely Christian, evangelical view, and you were trying to appeal to that Trump base, and where you're like, I need to get reelected, so I'm going to do something that says, I think gay marriage is. You're setting yourself up to where you go. At some point, we're going to appeal gay marriage being legal, and you're setting a precedent for that. At some point.
So you're going back to the law the don't say gay
law. I'm gonna show you that I'm a advocate for the far right extreme.
Okay.
That's all it can be to me. And like, you're just trying to fodder this political advertisement that you're going to run in 2 years when you have to be reelected.
But it seems so extreme, right?
It's nuts.
I mean, there's a lot of Republicans that
it's emotional.
that I
is what it
know
looks
that
like.
aren't that far on the meter that they're like, hey, we're not that anti-LGBTQ.
Right. Right. And of all people, Disney's like, I wasn't even going to say anything. Like Disney's sitting in the corner going, we were fine just operating here by ourselves. And the employee's like, hey, you should take a stance. We're like, hey, by the way, we have a stance. Like they didn't come out and like, they weren't protesting in the street. They weren't weren't pushing their employees to go take a day off and go protest Washington about this bill or protest Tallahassee about this bill. They were just like, oh yeah, the employee said we should have a stance. So we do. Here it is. Like they were super subdued about it. And all of a sudden they got the wrath of nonsense on them. It seems like.
I got to think that, so Disney employees, now keep in mind, Disney employs some rather high profile people like directors and people that are have some voice in the community, because I think I saw a couple
side of that, right? Like
there was like some tweets where people are like, hey, I work for you because I'm also this, like, I have a voice, I have a lot of followers, I'm going to say this isn't right. And I think Disney had pressures, right? Like, I don't think they just did it out of the fact that necessarily our employees seem to not like this.
Right.
They have a little skin in the game, right? Where they're like, well, we don't really want our highly popular movie people to be against us. Right.
I feel like they got called into the middle of a high school.
They got caught right in the middle.
High school, middle school fight. And they're like, hey, you should mediate that. And then someone punched them in the face. And they're like, well, hey, wait.
Right.
I wasn't even a part of this fight for a long time. And all of a sudden I got punched in the face. Now my nose is bloody.
But again, in all fairness, I mean, you heard my opinion at the outset of this law. I think it's dumb as a box of rocks. It's stupid. Like,
the law is not great. So set that aside. The revenge part of it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I agree that's your topic.
So you start with dumb, and then you just take it up a notch
and
because
you double down on it.
Right. You're just like, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to bang on this and make sure that you know my point, because what kind of person does it take to go, I'm going to take on Mickey Mouse? Right? Like, so say your law, say you really in your mind think that there's these teachers out there that are just pouring their agenda onto kids and distracting them daily. Instead of math, they're teaching them things that aren't appropriate for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. I think it's less than third grade, right? Something like that.
Third or less, yeah.
And you really think that. And then a company goes, I don't think that's right. And you go, I am so mad.
Right.
At just you having the audacity to say,
unmitigated
gall to say that my law isn't right. I'm going to rain down on you what I think is a punishment that actually ends up shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah, but you've had for 60 years. That law has been in place. Like the Disney stuff has been there for, Jesus. Anyway.
So Mickey Mouse was like, go ahead. Do your darndest. Now you have to pay for all of this.
Why didn't you do that in the Mickey Mouse voice? You were doing so good for a minute.
Did I get it close?
Yo, you nailed it. Nailed it.
It's way better than my Donald Duck impression.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. So you good with this?
Do you have anything else to say?
No, but I'm 100% on board with you of cutting off your nose to spite your face is ridiculous.
Yeah. So I hope if you're out there and you're like, you know what, I want to get revenge on a person or an entity, think it through, because in the heat of the moment, it seems like you're probably gonna maybe get a bit of satisfaction from getting back at someone you don't like or something you don't like. But at the end of the day, it's probably gonna backfire.
Karma's a bee.
It is.
Right? It's gonna come back and get you.
Yeah. Just don't take that immediate, like, I want to get retribution. Just take a minute, settle down, think about it. And maybe you'll think it through and go, oh, you know what? This is actually going to, in extreme cases, individually, it could put you in jail. There are a lot of people that have sought revenge on people and taken some pretty extreme steps. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in jail, lost a job, lost their financial foothold, all kinds of bad things.
So before you go act on your anger, sit down and actually think about why you're angry. Are you angry at yourself or are you angry at somebody else? I agree with you 100%. Think it through before you do something so stupid that you can't recover from.
I will end on this. As Dave says, an eye for an eye just leaves a world full of blind people.
Blind people. 100% agree. Nice.
Boom, baby.
So tell me about Hawaii 5 Ale.
Hawaii 5 Ale. This is really good. It's going down nice and smooth.
We can tell, by the way, how passionate we're getting about the discussion. It's good.
I'm fired up. So yeah, this is good. This is right middle of the road. It's not overly powerful in its fruity flavors. Like when you read all of the fruits that are in it, like pineapple and coconut and mango and peach and guava, you think, holy cow, this is going to be like a real sweet, like overly sweet beer.
Yeah.
And it's not. Like it's really maybe it's because I've had a couple of various beers.
Yeah, we've been all over the map tonight,
right. But it's not powerful. I like it.
So I don't like Hawaiian Punch. I know people love Hawaiian Punch, like whatever that flavor is of red.
Right.
Red.
It's red
fruit, sweet.
Sugar.
It's the one thing I don't like. One flavor I don't like.
That's the one sugar you might not like.
I know. Weird,
you love
right?
Sugar.
And this has a hint of Hawaiian Punch in it. To me, but not overwhelming Hawaiian Punch. Like you said, it's there's some fruit in there, but you're like, it's not overwhelming. But there's a hint of Hawaiian Punch in this to me for some reason.
That's odd. I don't get any Hawaiian Punch. Hawaiian Punch is a very distinctive flavor.
This is Hawaiian 5 Ale.
Right, but Hawaiian Punch doesn't mean that it came from Hawaii. I think it's
this came from Illinois.
Yeah, I'm not comparing the two. The Hawaiian Punch and Hawaiian Ale.
Yeah.
Separate.
So where are you at with this one?
This is a solid 3. I'm not going to go out and try to find necessarily more of it. If people like, hey, how do you like that Destihl Hawaiian 5 Ale? I love the name. I enjoy this for a summer beer. Like if I had a few of these and I had bought them and they were in my cooler, I am not mad. Like I'm like, yeah, I'll take another one, serve it up. But when I'm out, I don't necessarily think I'll go, I really need more of that.
Right.
So
I'm kind of in the same place as you on this one. I know that's weird, but
we disagree on almost everything.
So like I said, I don't like Hawaiian Punch.
True. Yeah, if it tastes like that,
I feel like a little bit. However, it's light enough to where I go, it's decent. It's a decent tasting beer. I'll drink it. And if somebody offered it to me, I'd drink it again. I'm going to go with 3.
All right.
I'm on board with you.
3s.
That's
all around. And 3 is positive. 3 is a good. Once you go less than 3, that's when it gets into the negative.
You can't finish it or you won't drink another. Yeah, it's bad.
I feel like on Amazon, though, it's what's funny about our rating system, and you can find our rating system in the description of the podcast. It gives you a full outline of exactly what it is, because we don't try to. If we had to go through it every time, it would bore you.
And I get confused easily.
Right. So if you're new to the podcast and you're like, what do these star ratings mean? Just pause it, go to the description. It has a really good rundown of what that is. So all of that to say is that 3 is a positive. If I'm on Amazon and I'm buying something, if something's a 3-star, I don't know that I'm buying it, which is terrible to say, but it's like, I feel like on actual Amazon, you almost have to be a 4 or a little bit higher, or you think something's wrong with this. But
for us,
it's positive.
A 4 is I'm pushing this. I'm buying it again, and I'm pushing it.
I'm looking for it in the cooler at the grocery store.
And 5 is I'm pushing it on people proactively.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm PBR hard coffeeing. Going, you need to try this for breakfast.
I bought extra because when people come over,
right, I want you to drink this. I'm going to force this on you.
Yes.
Right.
You're going to love it.
I'm going to be a weird guest and make you drink a whole bunch of weird stuff. So, which we've done. I've I've got a couple things in my cooler that or in my refrigerator that if somebody comes over and I go, have you tried this? They go, no. I'm like, you're trying it tonight.
That's right.
It's on.
And what's great is we've had a lot of feedback of people that have tried some of the things we've recommended and are like, I really didn't think I was going to like this. And oh my gosh, this was really great.
Yeah. I've put a couple people onto like hard coffee and White Russians, and there's the weird gamut of stuff that we've run, and I've gone, hey, you should try this. And they're like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Right.
Bomb Pops from Four Hands, right? Like the hard seltzer that's great from Four Hands, right? Like people have tried that because of us, so that's cool. So you want to stick on a political theme because
man, do I? Politics is my game.
This whole
It's my
episode,
jam.
if you hate politics, then you're gonna hate this episode, and I apologize to you. But I have a similar scenario that tickled me in the wrong way, and so the last episode we did, we talked about I went away for like 10 days.
A week's vacation.
2 weeks. Yeah, like better than a week's vacation, like 12 days, 10 days.
I was just about to start though. The parents just don't understand.
Yeah,
the
you were
song.
going to go into
My parents went away on a week's vacation.
Yeah. So we're not in Bel Air, but so I went away for a while. I didn't watch the news. I didn't check my phone really for news update kind of stuff. I got home. The first thing I saw, I turned the news on, which I should have never done. I should have just kept with the theme of don't watch it. First thing I do, so I got home at Saturday night at 1 a.m. or Sunday morning, I guess at 1 a.m. And I get up at 6 or 7 every morning anyway. I can't help it, regardless of what time I go to bed. Mm-hmm. So I get up and I go, if I turn the TV on, it's Sunday, so it's Meet the Press. I know. If you know Meet the Press, you realize that's their slogan, but I can't help it. I turned it on. I'm like, it's Sunday. It's Meet the Press. Great.
I've never watched it.
Are you kidding? With Chuck Todd?
No.
People hate Chuck Todd.
I don't even know who that is. Zero.
Great. So there's a show on Sunday called.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Now, in all fairness, I've heard of that, and I know Sunday mornings there's a couple of various news shows.
So Chuck Todd has Meet the Press on Sundays.
Okay.
I'm not promoting them. They don't sponsor us.
They should?
No, they probably shouldn't. You're right.
I don't want them to. I don't think I want them to sponsor us.
But the first thing I turn on is, this is gonna get crazy. Is the first thing I turn on is a Republican, and I don't know if he's a senator or governor from Mississippi, Alabama. Let's call it Alabama for fun.
Let's call it Alabama
because we just talked about Florida, so we'll just move our way west.
Mississippi's closer.
So let's talk about maybe he's from Mississippi. I'll make fun of him.
I've been to all those states, so I'm.
Oh, it is Mississippi. 100% is Mississippi. He's either governor or senator from Mississippi.
All right.
I don't know which.
Biloxi.
Right, and
That's
so
there.
Also, and again, I've been neglect of all news. I have no idea what's going on in the country
For 9 days.
for 9 or 10 days. Right, like literally, I have no idea.
Right.
First thing I hear is we need to get the Supreme Court to repeal Roe versus Wade.
Oh my gosh.
So I know
you're bringing this up.
I am. I'm gonna go here, but for a weird reason. And it's a pick your own adventure, and I'll let you go at that point. But he's like, hey, he's an old white guy from Mississippi. He's like, hey, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do for people, and what we're gonna do in Mississippi is we're gonna create. So once they repeal Roe versus Wade, we're gonna create a bunch of. He's a Republican, so keep that in mind. We're gonna create a bunch of government programs to help moms.
Okay.
Right. So he's like, we'll just create a bunch of government programs to help moms who have kids that they maybe can't take care of. And I go, and this is literally the very first thing I watch. I turn the TV on. Within 5 minutes, I'm watching a guy a white old man from Mississippi tell me that they're getting ready, the Supreme Court's ready to rule, and I'm like, where have I been? Like, I've been away for a while.
It was and again, keeping in mind, I don't follow politics
Right.
and I don't watch the news, but when something's big enough, I see
you
it.
hear it, yeah.
On the
It's on
periphery
Reddit or something.
You're right. I see it on the periphery. So it was a leaked.
Yeah, there's a leaked memo about a ruling that could come out that would allow.
It wasn't a memo. It was the actual ruling, I believe. A leaked copy, a first draft.
Yeah, first draft of it. So, but he was addressing that and going, this is what our agenda is we're going to get this thing repealed. And when we do, as a Republican, we're going to create a bunch of government programs to support women who, we don't believe they should have abortions, but we're going to support them in government assistance and programs for them. And I'm like, what kind of messed up world have I come back to where Republicans who have historically since I've been alive, so let's call it 46 years. And I don't know what they did before that, but let's call it 46 years that my dad is ingrained that Republicans are conservative who don't like government spending and who also don't support government programs because they feel like they're wasted spending and people should go to work. I've got a white man who's telling me abortion's wrong and the right answer is government programs to support to support women who shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion. So I should take their right away from them. And so I'm like, oh my God, where have I been for 10 days? I'm like, I should have never turned the news on.
Right.
And what the part that struck me is I'm adopted. So I have a stance on abortion, and I don't think we have to get into that if you don't want to. I know that's kind of a controversial topic, and I don't want to go down a road that we don't need to go down. I have a stance on it. I do think personally that women have the right to choose what happens to their body. And I think like we've talked about the rights of individuals. I don't have to like your rights, but I have to respect the fact that you have a right as a human to do things that I don't approve of. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's where I feel like you should have that right. As a woman, do what you need to do. But what I'm drawing from this is the hypocrisy. You freaking hypocrite. That for you're probably 75 years old and you're on the news telling me that you have run on a platform of Republicans hate government programs and we shouldn't be spending all this money. And now all of a sudden you're like, hey, when it comes to abortion and Christians, we think we should be able to push our Christian rights on you. And then we'll pay for it in the back end. We'll give you money and support you. Some sort of the hypocrisy of government. So I know this is a rant. I can see it on your face. This is
hey, I ranted for the first 30 minutes.
It's all good. It's all good. This appears. I feel like this is the same as my vaccine rant that I went on for a minute. But I just am so angry with And it's funny to me that that's where the party has ended up, and that's where people think they can pull that off, and that somebody believes them. There's the voters out there that go, yeah, that guy's telling the truth. No, are you kidding me? So where do you fall on hypocrites? How do you vote when you know that people are just telling you something that's they've run on for 20 years that's not that, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what we support is government programs to help people who are less privileged or who are going through Planned Parenthood, who have adoption clinics, and we're going to support all that in Mississippi being the lowest income and lowest education state in our nation. How do you have the goal to even come on the news and talk? My God, sorry. So
I think I would go back to, obviously, that gentleman, whatever color he is. I know you've said white a couple times, and he's a male.
He's super white and male.
But
yeah.
Despite his, here's what I'll say.
Make it fun, because I feel like I've just tore this thing down. I apologize. I went on a rant.
You lit this thing on fire.
I did light it on fire.
This is what this sounds like.
I Molotov cocktailed this whole podcast. I apologize.
Damn it. There's just so much involved, and it's with abortion.
Yeah.
And it's such a polarizing topic, and it's become very polarizing because it's become this very one way or the other, right? It's pro-life, pro-choice. If you're not pro-life, you're pro-choice. If you're pro-choice, you're not pro-life. And it's like, there's no nuance. It just feels like there's no balance, right? It's like you're either one way or the other, and it controls a huge section of people's voting,
and that's what it can.
Right.
That's the point, right?
and because of that, because that issue carries so much volatility and so much voting power, it becomes such a huge, disproportionately huge
Right.
issue that shouldn't be, in my humble opinion, driving that much vote. Right?
Agree.
Like, we have way bigger problems we probably need to solve that you should be voting in terms of, but this issue is the one that will never go away until maybe there's a science that perfects I don't know. Like, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but what I'm saying is it's so disproportionate and it's such a volatile issue. And there's so much nuance, right? And now we do have sciences, because I think if you start that domino of say the Supreme Court comes out and says, okay, we're going to overturn this law, and it's based on this 1970, how it was interpreted, because it's an interpretation of a law that, as a result of a lawsuit, but we're going to overturn that. Well, that means a whole lot of things.
Yep.
Right. Way more than I think that we can necessarily count. It's not just black or white, right? Like in terms of, it's not just, pro-life, pro-choice. I think there's so much nuance there. It's so much bigger than just this. I'm a conspiracy. If I'm going to choose my own adventure.
Yep.
Can I choose the adventure of this supposed leak is, how many times has a Supreme Court draft 1 decision been leaked?
Probably only.
I haven't heard of it.
I think so the news talked about this is very, very rare, and maybe a handful of times, 2 to 3.
I think this is where the interest for me lies, in that someone wanted to go, I need to get a pulse on what this does.
I need to see what happens with it,
because this could result in huge protesting, right? And there's already protests that have sprung up because it's so volatile, right? It's such a big issue with so many people. Everyone has a stance on it, and at least a belief. And then you have the vocal people that are going to that just directly impacts, right? Like, I'm out of the age of childbearing.
Right.
I'm a male. I can't have kids, right? So my opinion is, I have one, right? But it's not the driving factor.
Right.
So I think that the conspiracy theorist in me, and I don't have a lot of conspiracy theories. I'm very I'm timid to go, oh, this is the government's way of controlling us, or this is, but I think there was something said that was like, hey, why don't we put this kind of out there and see what happens? And what do you think about that? I'm kind of curious.
So I think the Trump era got three elective Supreme Court justices. I think they pushed it. I think there was a lawsuit in Texas. There's a couple lawsuits that are all the same way that push that. There
have been hundreds of lawsuits, right?
But very specific ones that say, like trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. I think that it's they've figured out how there's a strategy in place.
Yeah.
And I do think that at some point somebody goes, we need to leak a little bit of this because there's some precedent we're going to set.
Yeah.
So somebody on the news, and I don't remember what group it was from, but talked about the precedent that they're trying to overturn is really interesting because it's a precedent of privacy and privilege or something.
It's like the privacy.
It's a privacy
the
piece
big
of it,
deal.
right? And so that privacy privilege has been used in a bunch of other lawsuits, and the chain reaction that could be caused by this is that same precedent, if it's overturned, then becomes something that they can press lawsuits against that same precedent and a bunch of other things that was upheld. So you can now do gay marriage uses that same precedent, and some other things use that same precedent to say this is how we pass this law. So I think there's a strategy somewhere that's scary, but I also do think you don't leak things. Things don't leak from the Supreme Court on accident.
No,
ever.
No,
like those 12 people, 9 people. Sorry, those 9 people have a pretty tight council. I am certain of it, and have a lot of respect for each other.
The amount of stuff that they do and the power that they wield.
Yeah.
It's not.
They have a lot
small.
of respect for it. So
Yeah,
that's not something. That's not crap that leaks all the time.
No, it's not like somebody had that on a thumb drive and they're like, "Oh, I left that at Starbucks."
Right. Yeah. I was downloading my new brief.
Right.
And then no. So yeah, I agree. There's some strategy there too.
Yeah. Yes.
I just struggle with I struggle with politics more and more because of people being hypocrites about what I feel like it's good for you from a Christian perspective, voter perspective, and then you do something else that's like completely not that. I do also think there's some interesting times going on in the Supreme Court right now that are frustrating, and I don't know. I have an interesting perspective because I'm adopted and I'm still pro-choice. I think that's a weird view, and I still want to be Republican at most parts. I want to be financially conservative. I don't want you to spend money on everything, but you don't have to
be Republican to go. You want to be financially. I mean, there's
Agreed.
plenty of parties out there. We've turned into a two-party system, but you and I have talked about this at
being
length.
Libertarians.
Well, but not the crazy libertarian.
No, I'm not.
I think we just we've said we sort of fall in line with some of. Yeah. Like I don't want to just attach myself to libertarianism because if you read some of their stuff, it's
crazy too. I want to be a financially conservative and socially liberal party that represents human beings.
Yeah,
like figure that out.
I want to be conscious of people.
Yeah,
and needs, but at the same time, not spend us into oblivion doing it. I completely understand.
I want to promote capitalism, and I want to promote people being entrepreneurs and picking themselves up by the bootstraps and being accountable for their own work ethic. But at the same time, I want to be empathetic to people. I want to be empathetic to certain groups, and I want to make sure that people are included in what our all-inclusive American dream looks like. But you can't be that. You can't be a Republican or a Democrat and be that, it seems like, anymore.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's sad. That's a sad state of the world that that people that feel like they have to take a stance because their party told them to, or that they have to just read the weekly. They probably get an email that says, "Here's our talking points.
Yeah.
You need to go and spout this off on your Facebook feed so that you can get into either an argument with the person that disagrees with you, or that the 12 other people that are in your echo chamber can just repeat it." That's a sad state of affairs. I took a stance on the law in the early part of this, and I said that don't say gay law was stupid, not just because of the fact of what the law represented, but the way it was written and the way that it functioned. I don't think any law should be written like that. Yep. In the case of this, I will take a stance because I wanted to take a stance here and go. Stance. I think that the government should have stepped up and said, we cannot solely rely on a Supreme Court ruling from 1970 something, early 70s. I think it was 72 or 73, on a privacy issue. That if abortion is such a huge part of what we need some controls around it so that we can satisfy pro-lifers. And because I liken it to this, when we tried to outlaw alcohol, and I know some people will probably roll their eyes at this, but when we tried to outlaw alcohol, look at what happened, right? People don't change behaviors because of laws. And it will be to the detriment of our society that you try to regulate that behavior because of your morals, right? If you're going to push your morals on people, that's going to fail, right? You should be doing it in a different way, and that's my position is going. We can do this differently without trying to moralize society through legislation, but we should legislate to an extent so that we're not relying on a court case will we overturn this court case? Make it a law that is representative of the people, because it will have to go through all of the scrutiny of the Senate and the House and like all that, and go with it, but don't try to outlaw that because it will be to the detriment of our female population. This stuff's not going to stop, and it will only make it worse. We will hurt our people if we try to outlaw abortion unilaterally.
And so
that's a terrible decision. Yeah. And all of the stuff that comes with that. Because I think like plan B, I think all that would be part of it. I mean, it would come into question. Yeah. And that is a road you do not want to go down. In my personal opinion, this is only Andrew's opinion.
Steven's opinion is similar, but Steven's opinion is you are trying to outlaw a symptom of a problem.
Yeah.
And you're refusing to address the problem. And if you really think abortion is your problem, you're fighting your dog's hunting the wrong bird. Your dog needs
you with that rural dog's hunting the wrong bird.
Abortion is the symptom of a problem.
Yeah.
Go fix the problem, and you
you're never going to fix it.
No, but go address the problem. Go
make inroads into
go
that
reduce
problem.
that problem.
Right. Spend that money that Mississippi guy wants to teach people. Still do that.
Yeah.
But if you were into that, do it. Sorry.
Yeah. But no, I'm with you.
Stepping all over you.
No, you're good. You are 100% good. Just spend your time and money and effort on reducing the problem,
the need for it,
versus trying to just do symptoms. It's like taking aspirin when you have a headache, but you have the flu. The headache's only going to go away for a while. Like, you're going to outlaw it, but that only fixes it for a minute until people go figure out the way around it. Like, it just is what it is. So I know this was a hugely political podcast, and it probably turned into a Stephen rant, and I apologize for that, and it blew up on me. But I think it needed to happen. And if you don't like politics, man, and you made it through the end of an hour of this nonsense, good on you.
Right. When you do 51 episodes, because we're at 51, and one episode is
all politics.
Is a lot of political based politics.
What have you been drinking?
Destihl.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
I had a shot of something before we came on here. Yeah. So if this is the one, hopefully this is not one that deters you, because hopefully we've taken a good balanced stance on this. I hope it's common sense. That's what we need more of, is not to just go, you're right, I'm wrong. Eat doo-doo, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not, I hate for that to be the way of the world. It annoys me when it is.
I love that we condensed all of our politics into one episode right now. Like, it just happened that way, and I don't know how, but like, we both brought a political topic tonight. We usually don't bring this. So this is the first episode you listen to a different one.
All right.
See if you like it better.
Listen to one where we play games or sing.
If you challenge us or want to have a part of this conversation, we'd love for that too. You can find all of our socials in the description of wherever you find your podcast. You're listening to it now, so go check the description. There's socials in there. Let us know. I would also love to know what you're drinking. So send us something on what you're drinking, like whatever crazy stuff is. I would love to have some new fun stuff to review that I don't have to think too much about when I go to the grocery store. Although I love going to the grocery store and finding weird stuff, but I would love to hear what you guys are drinking as well. So check us out there.
Agreed. So we're going to put this one to bed?
No, this one's in bed. All right.
Thanks you. I don't know. I got nothing. We got to go.